Hello, everyone. So, today's case, we're going to be talking about Tina Fontaine, and this is another unsolved case. This is another case of an Indigenous woman or Indigenous child because she was very young when she went missing, and the police work was sad, and the outcome of this has been very sad. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this story. So, Tina Michelle Fontaine, 15, was from the Sadking, I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced. I will have the name on the screen. First Nation in Manitoba. According to Thelma Favel, who was is Tina's great aunt, Tina loved school, and she did very well there. She loved children and would often play games with them. She loved to jump on the trampoline, and that she had a big heart. Thelma says she holds each and every moment spent with Tina as a treasured memory. And for more than a decade, Tina had lived with her great aunt and uncle, Thelma and Joseph, and they cared for her after her father Eugene was diagnosed with cancer, and then in 2011 he was actually beaten to death. Thelma says that when Tina went to the city, that's when something changed. And she says, quote, "But after she went to the city, that's when Tina, I don't know," end quote. In 2014, Tina's life began to fall apart. Tina would start to visit her biological mother in Winnipeg. They had been reunited after Eugene's death. Thelma says her mom, Valentina, has a history of working in the sex trade and struggled with alcoholism, so she placed a call to her caseworkers to make sure it would be safe for Tina to visit. Thelma got the green light, and Tina went and had her visit, and everyone says that it was a good visit with her. But when Tina had to write a victim impact statement about Eugene, she began to drift away again. Tina had overheard a conversation that Thelma was having about how badly beaten Eugene was when he was found and the marks on his body, which, imagine being a child and hearing that about your dead father. That would absolutely break you. Eventually, she started to turn herself around again and was getting better. She asked to see her mom again, and Thelma said she let her go without doing checks on Valentina this time. She gave Tina $50 and a calling card in case she wanted to come home sooner, and it would be the last time that Thelma saw her alive. Thelma says she blames herself because, quote, "I didn't find out until later that she'd lost custody of her kids and she was back on the streets," end quote, and that is about Valentina. So when Tina didn't come home, Thelma put her in the care of the Manitoba Child and Family Services, and she says that they absolutely failed Tina. According to police reports, she was last seen in downtown Winnipeg on August 8th, 2014, and on August 17th, her body was pulled from the Red River near Alexander Docks. Her body was wrapped in a bag. Police wouldn't release any information because they said it was an ongoing investigation. They wouldn't even release the medical or even talk about the state of her body or the medical examiner's findings or anything like that. They wouldn't even release any of that information to Thelma, which is just wild to me. Like, that's her family. But this is not the first case where police have withheld information from families. Thelma was told that two police officers even ran into her on the night she was last seen, and that Tina was briefly admitted to a hospital and was in the custody of CFS before she vanished. So, when I read that, I understood when she said that they had failed her, because even though she placed them in the CFS care, how come you don't talk to Thelma? You don't tell her, hey, your great niece, she was in the hospital, something happened. It's just wild to me that they did not reach out to any family. And it makes you wonder, like, what happened that put her in the hospital? I don't know. Those are just questions that I have. So, the Winnipeg Police Service would charge Raymond Cormier, 53, in December 2015 with second-degree murder. The evidence against him was circumstantial, and there was no forensic evidence connecting him to Tina. On February 22nd, 2018, a jury would acquit Raymond Cormier, and he would be found not guilty. And this would be a jury of 7 women and 4 men. The reaction to the verdict was sorrow and outrage, especially with the family. And the trial had lasted over 3 weeks. And here's a quote from Valentina, the biological mother, and she said, this was right after the verdict had been read, and she says, "Fuck you if you think you can get away with this." And then she had stormed out of the courtroom. And then Thelma, this reaction had me in shambles. She was quoted as saying, my baby, and she cried, and that she was described as being weak with emotion and was barely able to stand. Family and supporters actually formed a circle around her and prayed, and then they had to help her up. And she just, when she left the courtroom and was in the hallway, she fell again and was sobbing, and that broke my heart because, oh God, I'm about to cry. To just imagine that you think you have the person who did this, and you're hoping for a verdict, and then the person who is being charged with the murder is found not guilty. The injustice is just, my heart just broke for her. Outside, Indigenous leaders delivered speeches on all the ways that Canada's institutions were responsible for what happened and how they had severely failed Tina. So this is a quote from Manitoba. I'm not able to pronounce his name. I will have it on the screen. But he is the Grand Chief, or she is the Grand Chief, I'm sorry, Sheila North, and she says, "This is not the outcome anybody wanted. The systems, everything that was involved in Tina's life failed her." End quote. And then this is actually a quote from Thelma, but it was delivered on her behalf by Sheila. And so Thelma said, she does not want to see any more violence against anyone. She doesn't want to see any retaliation because that's not what our people are about. She wants peace. She wants healing. She wants justice. And we're going to continue to look for that justice on her behalf. End quote. In a statement after the verdict, Winnipeg police said that they had conducted an extensive investigation into her death, and a month after the trial, the Crown prosecutors decided that they would not appeal the case. On February 23rd, 2018, a day after the trial had ended, more than 1,000 people gathered to march in honor of Tina and to support her family. And to end this with a quote from Thelma, she says, "I just miss her so much. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think of my baby. That's what she was to me, my baby." End quote. This case is just absolutely heartbreaking. Tina had such a bright future, and someone decided to take that from her, kill her, and then wrap her body in a bag. Because she certainly did not do that to herself. And the police said they conducted an extensive investigation, but all of their evidence, by the way, I don't know what evidence it was, I couldn't find anything about that, but whatever evidence it was apparently circumstantial and was not enough. So how extensive were you actually being? Because you brought this to trial on purely circumstantial evidence that was weak, and now the family had to sit in a courtroom, listen to all the evidence you supposedly have, listen to what happened to Tina, look at the man who they think did this to her, and then hear the jury say not guilty. Can you imagine how that family fucking feels? Especially Thelma. Valentina's reaction was quite valid. I would absolutely say fuck you. But the way Thelma was just crying, I don't think the police did enough, and I don't think they did near enough. I don't care what they say, they did not do enough, and I think they know they didn't. I think they just wanted to charge someone, because when I was doing my investigation, when I was doing my research, Raymond Cormier's name came up randomly. I didn't see anything about how he had been a suspect. I didn't see anything that was linking to him, and this could have been because they weren't releasing any information. But there was nothing there. His name came up randomly, and I was just like, who is Raymond Cormier? And I had to do looking into him, and then getting into his trial. I don't. The cops failed her. CFS failed her. When she was admitted to the hospital, why did they not call Thelma? I'm sure if they had, Thelma would have been at that hospital in a heartbeat to get her. But they didn't. And so she obviously left the hospital. And then something happened. And she was never seen again, at least alive. Every single institution failed this girl, and they should be ashamed. It's just disgusting. And I think it's very big of Thelma to say she doesn't want violence, she doesn't want retaliation, she just wants peace, healing, and justice. Because if I was her, I would be angry. I'd be fighting people. I would be very upset. But she is saying that she just wants justice, and I think that's very big of her. And my heart goes out to that family. And what else pisses me off is that the Crown prosecutors decided that they would not appeal the case. So they're not even going to try again. Because to me, it sounds like they know they don't have what they need to try to get Raymond again. And that pisses me off. They should have made sure they had what they needed the first fucking time. But they didn't do it. Because I don't think they actually gave a shit. And Tina's family had to sit in that courtroom and give their hopes up because they couldn't do the right fucking thing and do the right fucking job. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be profane. It's just it really angers me. And the thing is, when I looked up this case, most of the articles I found was Thelma talking about it, not police. They weren't talking about it. It was Thelma. It was the family speaking on behalf of Tina. And that is so upsetting when the family has to do the brunt of the work. I still wasn't able to find anything about her autopsy or anything like that, or like I said, what they supposedly had against Raymond, so I was not able to include that. But what do you think? Do you think the police did enough and the jury was just a letdown? What are your thoughts? My heart goes out to Thelma. If any of her family sees this, I am so sorry. Tina deserved justice, and I hope she still gets it. And I'm just really sorry. She was a beautiful girl. She sounded very bright. She was obviously very loved, and she deserved so much better. And the family deserves so much better. That is going to be it from me, guys. But thank you so much for listening to Tina's story, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.